including Mayor Mead from Burlington, Deputy Mayor Martin Medeiros, Councillor Vicente, Councillor Lisan, Halton, who is here on behalf of the FCM. Of course, Councillor Singh, Councillor Rowena Santos as well. And without Mr. Milojevic, a lot of this is not possible. So thank you so much for your passion and continued advocacy and direction when it comes to Brampton Transit. And yeah. And of course, Ms. Petrunik, I have to say the same. Your passion and your work at CUTRIC is really inspiring, and you are really helping Brampton transform transit in this city. So thank you for being here today. And of course, Ms. Riley from the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium. I'd like to begin by acknowledging our presence on the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. From knocking on doors to hearing from my youth council, I know that Canadians expect their government to support them in bringing about a brighter, cleaner future while doing our part to fight climate change. That's what our government has been doing with our ambitious climate plan aimed at creating a stronger economy and more sustainable jobs. And a commitment to achieving net zero by 2050. Of course, the government's recent 2030 emissions reduction plan represents a significant step forward in our efforts to meet these targets. Transportation is a key focus of our plan and an important sector right here in Brampton. It has to be because we know how moving people and goods within our communities and across our country accounts for 25% of our greenhouse gas emissions. And 3/4 of those emissions come from just two sources, passenger cars and trucks and heavy-duty vehicles. That's why our government announced a $950 million expansion of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund a few years ago. This has spurred local action, leveraged community resources, and driven innovation solutions. Simply put, the Green Municipal Funds helps local governments like the City of Brampton and the Region of Peel switch to sustainable practices faster. And speaking to my municipal counterparts, I know that they are thankful for investments like this fund. I also want to thank my federal colleague, Mr. Shafkat Ali, for also attending today's announcement. Welcome, Shafkat. Whether it's scaling up transportation solutions in municipal fleets and transit, like our initial funding for the CUTRIC plan, the Canadian electric bus demonstration and integration trial, to our more recent investments through the Canadian Infrastructure Bank to invest up to $400 million with the City of Brampton to help finance the acquisition of up to 450 zero-emission buses for Brampton Transit, or building the case for sustainable electric transport through the multi-billion-dollar investment in our Stellantis assembly plant here in Brampton, securing thousands of well-paying jobs. We are continuing to help local governments access technically and economically viable sustainable solutions to help respond to local transportation challenges. So let's hear it for all of those announcements. And what brings us here today is quite fitting. The announcement that we're making today is just before a week that we're going to have that's quite exciting next week. So next week is Canada's Electric Vehicle Week, and I know that there will be many other announcements across Canada in relation to that, so I'm excited to be on the heels of that announcement, making this announcement here today. So starting next Monday, Minister Wilkinson and my Liberal colleagues will be announcing our government's support for electrification from coast to coast to coast, from e-bikes and buses to electric car infrastructure and beyond. So stay tuned for that. Today, I'm pleased to announce, on behalf of Minister Wilkinson and the Government of Canada, an investment of $253,000 through FCM's Green Municipal Fund. This funding will support CUTRIC's work to help the cities of Brampton and Burlington to lower the emissions of our public transit systems. CUTRIC does vital work aligned with our collective climate goals. They spearhead technology and commercialization projects that can bring about next-generation zero-carbon transportation solutions, such as lowering fuel consumption, reducing emissions and congestion, and improving the quality of life for mobility customers and transit riders. This funding will allow them to undertake 2 studies to determine the most efficient ways to reduce emissions from transportation systems, including the feasibility of using zero tailpipe emission buses on Brampton Transit's route network, and the feasibility of reducing emissions by transitioning Burlington's transit fleet to fuel cell electric buses across all routes and blocks. These are technologies of the future, and we are proud to be supporting them today. These studies will also create knowledge that can be used throughout our entire region and beyond. This is another great example of how we can create the prosperity that we all want while protecting this planet that we all cherish. I'd like to congratulate the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium, Brampton and Burlington Transit, and all of the partners who helped make this day possible. I'd like to thank the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for their continued leadership and support on transportation and so many other important files. I wish you every success with this project, and I look forward to many more electric bus rides. As I mentioned earlier, I encourage everyone to stay tuned for more exciting announcements nationwide during Canada's Electric Vehicle Week starting Monday, July 11th. Thank you to all of you here today. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Councillor Vicente, as well as MP Sahota. How exciting this announcement is today, and the upcoming announcements coming up regarding electric vehicles. I have an electrical vehicle myself, so I'm happy to hear that. My name is Rowena Santos, and I am the councillor in Wards 1 and 5 in the City of Brampton, but also a board member, a proud board member of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And I have the dual pleasure today to introduce a colleague of mine from Burlington. I am proud to say that in Brampton, we have been supporting the push to make our fleet greener, as you can see from the beautiful buses in the backdrop, and to make our fleet greener and reduce emissions for many years to come. And as an FCM board member, I've had the privilege of being part of so many discussions about how to support transit agencies across Canada to meet key challenges, opportunities, and solutions associated with transitioning their existing fleet to a zero-emission and new low-carbon transit technologies. On FCM, I also had the pleasure of serving as part of the Committee of Infrastructure and Transit, and I can tell you that there have been many discussions about this. So it also gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague from FCM, Councillor Rory Nissan, who is our neighbor to the west and also sits on the Committee of the Environment at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Rory?
All right, thank you, Rowena. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here in Brampton on behalf of FCM with MP Sahota, Deputy Mayor Medeiros, Dr. Petrunic, and Councillors Vicente and Santos. There you are. So this investment of $253,000 from FCM's Green Municipal Fund is critical startup funding for the transition to zero-emission transit in Brampton and Burlington. This money is going to enable the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium, also known as CUTRIC, to assess the feasibility of using zero tailpipe emission buses on Brampton's Brampton Transit's route network, and to look at the feasibility of transitioning Burlington Transit's fleet to fuel cell electric buses. So right across the country, municipalities of all sizes are modeling local green solutions that are among the most innovative. Actually, it wasn't long ago I was over in Whitby celebrating a home energy retrofit program. So change is happening now, and studies like these announced today, they're the seed money that's going to bear fruit before you know it. These solutions can be replicated and scaled up across the country for deep national impact. So by investing through the Green Municipal Fund from FCM, we're building cleaner and healthier communities. This is what happens when municipalities and the federal government work together to develop innovative solutions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Empowering that local expertise is vital to meeting Canada's national climate goals. So today is about orders of government working together to build better lives. That's what Canadians expect of us, and you can count on FCM to continue delivering for municipalities. So I'd say we're the oil in the engine of environmental change in Canada, but Dr. Petrunas, can I say we're the hydrogen, maybe? Okay, well, you can help me after the press conference. Thank you very much. So thank you once again on behalf of FCM. Thank you. Now I have to put on a different hat because I'm here as Deputy Mayor of Burlington as well. And so on behalf of the City of Burlington and Mayor Mead Ward, thank you very much for having me today. I'm really happy to be doing this in Brampton. It's a city I also love, as my mom, who I love, lives just 5 minutes down the road off Sandalwood Parkway. And I've personally taken advantage of Peel's free level 3 charging stations on many occasions. So thank you for the free power, much appreciated. But allow me to just brag about Burlington for a second. So Burlington was one of the first municipalities in Ontario to declare a climate emergency, and we followed up with a climate action plan and climate resilience plan. We have ambitious targets, and we're moving ahead with a home energy retrofit pilot program as well. And also, Burlington has the highest per capita number of electric vehicle charging stations in the GTHA, with over 30 stations for every 50,000 people. Toronto's at about 16, but who's counting? We are urbanizing our community. We have no more available green space to grow on in Burlington. Public transit and active transportation are critical to the future of moving people in our city. So I'll be honest, the question comes up a lot. When are we going to see electric buses on the road in Burlington? And it's great to see that Brampton has a couple already. It's a good question because greening our operations is critical to achieving our targets. That's why I'm really excited on behalf of Burlington by the announcement of this study, because electrification of our bus fleet is a massive undertaking, and it's not going to be taken lightly. So we need to understand what options best suit our needs in Burlington. Any bus is a good bus, but an electric bus is best. So as it would be awkward for me to thank FCM, I would like to thank Member of Parliament Ruby Sahota and the federal government for its unwavering support for green solutions in our communities. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rory. And certainly from a municipal perspective, this is a great opportunity of how governments are working together through the Green Municipal Fund. It's now my pleasure to call upon my colleague, Deputy Mayor Martin Medeiros for the City of Brampton.
Thank you very much. And before I start, I do want to recognize Councillor Nisa. That was a good job you did wearing the double hat. I like how you transitioned. I am joined by my colleagues, Councillor Singh, Councillor Vicente, Councillor Santos, and I do see MP from Brampton South, MP Sidhu from my neck of the woods, who's joined us, along with MP Sahota and MP Ali. Certainly all guests, and I want to thank everyone for attending. Brampton Transit has been a close partner of CUTRIC since CUTRIC's inception in 2015, due to the close convergence in the vision of both the organizations with respect to achieving low-carbon public transit. CUTRIC has helped Brampton Transit and other municipal transit agencies standardize high-powered overhead charger technology and the interface with battery electric buses, developing performance standards, and planning the development and deployment of 8 battery electric buses and 4 chargers at Brampton Transit. Brampton's Phase 1 e-bus rollout represents the largest global deployment of fully interoperable, high-powered overhead on-street chargers and battery electric buses from multiple manufacturers to date. The partnership between Brampton Transit and CUTRIC serves as a template for future partnerships between municipalities, private, public, nonprofit, experts, where the risks associated with new transportation technologies can be best mitigated and shared. Thanks to this funding, the research will help us identify the type of zero tailpipe emission buses that are most appropriate to each route in our network, better understand associated life cycle cost benefit analysis and greenhouse gas emission reductions, gain insight into scheduling and charging analysis, and gauge the impact on social equity. And just finally, these technologies are important, but we need people to implement them. And I just want to give a shout out to Brampton Transit for such an amazing job that they do implementing these technologies, ensuring that we reduce our emissions. So thank you to Brampton staff. And at this time, I'd like to turn it back to Councillor Vicente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And finally, it is my pleasure to call upon Dr. Petronic, the CEO of CUTRIC. Dr.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, and merci d'être ici avec nous aujourd'hui. So, MP Sahota, councillors, usually I'm the nerd in the room, but you got all the science right, so I hereby nominate you as honorary CUTRIC geeks. I don't have to get into the science today. I'm Jospa Petronic, President and CEO of CUTRIC, and what I do want to talk about a little bit, usually I talk about how great cities are and how as cities we're solving the problems, and we are. But what I want to talk about a little bit today is what we actually are all thinking about. It's the story of the day, which is money and inflation. And pretty much nobody likes looking at their bills today. Nobody likes looking at their grocery bills. Nobody likes looking at their rent, their mortgage. I can't even open the bill. If you go to the gas station, it's a cringe moment, unless you drive an electric car, in which case it might be a good time to start thinking about that. So without getting into the philosophy of, our prognostications and what that does to inflationary measures, it's pretty clear as Canadians we're trying to figure out how to make life a little bit cheaper right now because it's getting really, really expensive. And we're trying to figure out how to do it right. But what I can tell you about what is not right is trying to fight inflation by reducing the cost of gasoline for car driving. What is right is investing in transit, this kind of transit for long-term solution building. Today, we're here to talk a little bit about what is right, that long-term effort in terms of getting rid of pollution and reducing the cost for Canadians. So let's put transit under an inflationary lens for a moment. If you drive a diesel bus or a hybrid diesel, or you have some, then you know that diesel is getting really expensive, and there's a lot of cities out there that have 2, 3, 5-year diesel contracts, and they're coming up for renewal, and it is eye-popping how expensive diesel has become. So inflation is hitting the diesel market, and that's hitting the cost of transit, and that's hitting the pocketbooks of Canadians who will take transit, because eventually cities are going to have to pass on that cost. By contrast, these electric buses don't face those same supply chain constraints. The electricity is local, and the price of electricity is not going up at the same rate as fossil fuels. So this is really good news for Canadians. It has shown through the studies that we've done and the kind of studies that are being funded here today that these electric buses pay themselves off within their lifetime, which means the savings of electricity over diesel makes it cheaper to operate transit than ever before. It's complicated, it's technologically sexy, it's all of these great things, but it's actually just frankly cheaper. And in this landscape of talking about inflation, how expensive life has become, that's a really good thing. And I know that this work, while it helps us do that long-term planning of cost savings translating into faster, more frequent transit for Canadians, it kind of runs countermeasure to what we're all wanting today, which is like the short-term, immediate thinking around inflation. We want immediate solutions today. But short-termism really never works out for humanity, because humanity is a long-term project, investing in transit is a long-term project, and frankly, fighting pollution is a long-term project. So today, the work we're doing here in zero emissions transit in Brampton and Burlington, it's about the long term. It's beyond today's inflation. It's beyond today's marketplace constraints. It's really about the future we all want to live in and the future of mobility that we all demand we have, which cities, frankly, are leading. And that is good, not only for municipalities, but for transit and transit riders. But it is fundamental to note, this is also a fight against inflation. These kinds of investments help to reduce mobility and without the cost of mobility and without reduced cost of mobility, Canadians just can't live. We can't get to daycare, we can't get to our kids, we can't get to the shopping mall, we can't get to our jobs cheaply. So this is a long-term investment in the fight against inflation. And that gives the people of Canada a chance to leave their cars at home, maybe not even own a car, which really saves a lot of money. And it helps us live ultimately a better life in Brampton, in Burlington, and across Canada. So thank you to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Thank you to Brampton for being a leader here, and Burlington. Thank you to the federal government. And Councillor Nissan, maybe we won't say that we're oil in the engine, but we can say we're the battery powering the long-term future of green. And maybe the cities are the supercapacitors zapping the immediate future of zero emissions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Petronik. The future is here and the future is electric. Thank you. We will now take a moment to gather our honored guests for a group photo. So I'd invite you to come up and we'll have a photo taken. Thank you.
What a great news story, and happy that we're sharing it here in the city of Brampton. So now I'll just open it up to any immediate questions. If anyone has any, please come forward and state the media organization you're with and your question. Okay, we've got one coming up.
Hello, Graham Frisk from the Brampton Guardian. I'm just wondering, what is Brampton's current electric bus infrastructure?
I'm sorry, can you just state that a little bit louder for me?
Yeah, what's the current infrastructure that electric bus infrastructure that Brampton Transit has right now? The footprint.
Great question. Thank you from the Guardian. It's asking about the current infrastructure of electric vehicles and electric infrastructure in the city of Brampton. Currently, right now, as Deputy Mayor Medeiros mentioned earlier, we have the largest global interoperable deployment of electric vehicles and infrastructure to support that. Right now we have 8 electrified vehicles. There's many systems around the world that have a lot more than 8. However, the interesting part of ours is that different manufacturers that all come together to provide this pilot project. We have 3 on-street chargers as well as in-depot chargers. 2 of them are located at our Mount Pleasant terminal, and 1 is located at Queen Street and Highway 50. These are overhead chargers done by different manufacturers, Siemens, ABB, and others. Through CUTRIC, who's been a partner in our deployment, have come together to make sure that we're sharing all the data, make sure that everything is working interoperable. So we've got 8 vehicles, 3 chargers, and also in-depot chargers as well as part of the infrastructure. We are advancing phase 2. Our council has approved further infrastructure enhancements into phase 2, as well as we're working a lot with our federal partners on a huge program with our provincial partners as well, and expanding our entire transition of our fleet to hopefully a zero emissions fleet. Thank you for the question. And no follow-up, any other media questions? Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for attending. In closing, I know our MC Vicente provided that, but again, these projects aren't doable without partners from both federal, provincial, all the governments across the board. So I just want to thank you again for coming to Brampton, sharing this announcement today, and thank you. In closing, thank you very much.
Sonia Sidhu.
Can you please tell us what's the reason that we're gathered here today?
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਜੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਈ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟਸ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੋ ਜੇ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਿਸ ਲਈ ਜੇ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਰਟਨਰਸ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਵੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਹੋਣ ਨਾਲ ਮੋਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਿਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ ਇਹਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪਾਰਟ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੋ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਹੀ ਨੀਡਸ ਹੈਲਪ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਕਿ 100% ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰਾਈਡਰਸ ਆ ਵਾਪਸ ਆ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਬਿਫੋਰ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਘੱਟ ਆਫਟਰ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਘੱਟ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਸੋ 100% ਰਾਈਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਜ਼ਿਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਣ ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ ਸਟੈਪ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਬਰੈਂਪਟੋਨੀਅਨ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਹੈਲਪ ਮਿਲ ਸकेगी
तो लगभग ये इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस हम कब देखेंगे मतलब कब आएंगी ब्रैम्पटन के और व्हेन विल दे विल बी अवेलेबल
ਸੋ ਦਾ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਲਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਰਾਊਟ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਹੀ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਤੇ ਉਸੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਕਦਮ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਅੱਜ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਹੋਈ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਸੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਦਾ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਸਟੈਪ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਲਿਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਜੀ
तो ये एक स्टेप है फॉर अ बेटर ग्लोबल फ्यूचर आप इसको एक्सपैंड करेंगे और भी जगहों में
ਇਫ ਯੂ ਰਿਮੈਂਬਰ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਅਨਾਉਂਸ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਿਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸੋ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਹੈ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਐਕਸਪੈਂਸਿਵ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਜ਼ੀਰੋ ਫੇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਸੋ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੀਡਿੰਗ ਅਵੇ ਸੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਟੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਲੀਡ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਤੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਰੈਂਪਟੋਨੀਅਨ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸਹੂਲਤਾਂ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਸਿਟੀ ਥਰਾਈਵ ਕਰੇਗਾ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਕਦਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਰੈਂਪਟੋਨੀਅਨ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਲਪ ਮਿਲੇਗੀ ਜੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਸੋਨੀਆ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਸਾਊਥ ਤੋਂ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਅੱਜ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਬੰਨਿਓ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲੀਗ ਸੋਨੀਆ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਐਂਡ ਸ਼ਫਕਤ ਅਲੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਿੰਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਸੀਗੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਬੰਨਿਓ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਮਨੀ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਲਈ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਸੋ ਦੈਟ ਉਹ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਪਲੈਨਿੰਗ ਆਪਦੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਵੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਬੈਸਟ ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਇਮਿਸ਼ਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਆਪਣੀ environmental ਜਿਹੜੀ pollution ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ reduce ਕਰਨ ਲਈ and so this is a really important part of the project ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਜੋ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ announcements ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ buses ਦੇ purchase ਲਈ and for other things and ਗਾਹਾਂ I think ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ announcements ਇਸ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁਣੋਗੇ but those announcements all go hand in hand together to build a good project for the future and to make sure ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣੀ transit ਦੀ plan ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਚੰਗੇ ਪਲਾਨ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜੌਬਸ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰੇ ਪਰ ਗਾਹਾਂ ਲਈ ਸਸਟੇਨੇਬਲ ਹੋਵੇ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਚੇਂਜ ਨਾ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਪੈਣ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਲਈ ਸੋ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਰੀਲੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਤਰਫ ਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਵੈਸਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਐਂਡ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਸੀਇੰਗ ਦੈਟ ਐਜ਼ ਵੈਲ ਇਨ ਅਦਰ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਟੈਲੈਂਟਿਸ ਪਲਾਂਟ ਜੋ ਆਪਣਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਲਰ ਪਲਾਂਟ ਸੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਸਟੈਲੈਂਟਿਸ ਓਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਿਲੀਅਨਸ ਆਫ ਡਾਲਰਸ ਇਨਵੈਸਟ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਦੈਟ ਉਹ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਕਾਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਨੂਫੈਕਚਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਇਹ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਵੀਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋਗੇ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਵਹੀਕਲ ਵੀਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਬੰਨਿਓ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟਸ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਅਕ੍ਰੋਸ ਦ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਵੀ ਰੀਲੀ ਡੂ ਥਿੰਕ we want to continue being Brampton the leader है but we want to make sure all of Canada is leading on this front
कितनी गर्व की बात है कि ब्रैम्पटन ये इनिशिएटिव लीड कर रहा है उसके बारे में आप थोड़ा सा कुछ कहना चाहेंगी
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਕਲਾਈਮੇਟ ਚੇਂਜ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਓਰਿਟੀ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਨੋ ਦੈਟ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਓਰਿਟੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਸ਼ੋਰਟ ਟਰਮ ਸੋਚ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਲੈਨਿੰਗ ਜੋ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਫਰਮ ਹੀਅਰ ਔਨ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਸੋ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਜਸਟ ਰੀਲੀ ਐਕਸਾਈਟਿਡ ਦੈਟ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਸਕ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਬੰਨਿਓ ਫੰਡ ਕਰ ਪਾ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਸੋ ਆਈ ਹੋਪ ਟੂ ਵਰਕ ਵਿਦ ਦ ਸਿਟੀ ਇਨ ਹੈਂਡ ਫॉर ਅ ਲੌਂਗ ਟਾਈਮ ਟੂ ਕਮ
थैंक यू सो मच मैम
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ
नमस्ते सर, आप प्रवासी के दर्शकों को बता सकते हैं कि आज हम इकट्ठा क्यों हुए हैं यहाँ पे?
ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਕਰਕੇ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਸੀਗਾ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਸ ਤੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਵਿੱਚ 8 ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਬੱਸਸ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਲਾਗੂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਇਸ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੂਗਾ ਆਬਵੀਅਸਲੀ ਦਾ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੀਕਲ ਬੱਸਸ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਢੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੰਪਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
सर, कितने गर्व की बात है कि ब्रैम्पटन इस इनिशिएटिव को लीड कर रहा है, उसके बारे में 2 बातें आप कहना चाहेंगे?
ਯਾ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਇੋਰਟਾਈਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਬੱਸਾਂ ਆ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡਾ এনवायरमेंट ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਆ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਲਈ ਸੋ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੀਕਲ ਬੱਸ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਰੋਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਸੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਇੋਰਟਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਛੇਤੀ ਲਾਗੂ ਵੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ